Welcome to the Development Review Commission meeting of July 25th. The Development Review Commission is created to hold public meetings and hearings to provide analysis and recommendations to the City Council regarding general land use policies and applications where the Commission has the power to recommend and to render final decisions or specified applications where the Commission has final decision-making power, including but not limited to all aspects of a proposed and future development. The Development Review Commission recognizes that the creation of a desirable environment throughout the city for residents, business, and industry is a prime requisite for the interdependence of land values, aesthetics, and good site planning. By promoting harmonious, safe, attractive, and compatible development that's therefore considered to be in the best interest of the public health, safety, and general welfare. I'd like to start this evening introducing the Commission. To my far left is Andrew Johnson, Phil Amorosi, Angie Thornton. To my right is Vice Chair David Lyon, our newest member, Michael DiDomenico, and Tom Brown, and I'm Chair Linda Spears. From the staff, we have Cynthia Jarrett, Lee Jimenez, Suparna Dasgupta, and out in the audience hiding is Steve Abramson, so welcome. The first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes, and I'd like to consider all 4 sets of minutes with one motion. Vice Chair Lyon.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the study session and regular session minutes for meetings dated June 13th and June 27th.
Is there a second? Been moved by Vice Chair Lyon and seconded by Commissioner Johnson for the approval of the 4 sets of minutes. All those in favor? Opposed? And that passes 5-0 with the 5 commissioners who attended those meetings voting. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing for the appeal of a decision by the hearing office for a use permit. I will remind everyone that this is a judicial proceeding, and we will be judging the case based on the 5 conditions that a use permit is judged on. If there's anyone in the audience here to speak on this case, you must fill out a form and hand it to staff to be recognized. We will be enforcing our time limits tonight on public speakers, so there's a little box here, and when you're watch that, please. When it turns yellow, start wrapping up, and then we'll cut you off when it turns red. Mr. Jimenez.
Good evening, Madam Chair Spears, members of the Commission. Levine Smoke Shop intends to operate a smoke shop in a neighborhood-level shopping strip located on the northeast corner of South 48th Street and West Vineyard Road in the CSS Commercial Shopping and Services District in West Tempe, along the Phoenix-Tempe border. At the hearing held on January 20th, 2017, the hearing officer denied the use permit request to allow a tobacco retailer for Levine Smoke Shop number 6. The use permit application was a result of a code violation issued by the Code Compliance Division on May 4th, 2017 for operating a tobacco retail store without a use permit. The use permit application was accepted by the Community Development Department on May 15th. The shop plans to sell cigars and other tobacco products, but primarily wants to focus on cigars. The hours of operation are proposed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 6 days a week. Per the Zoning and Development Code, a tobacco retailer is categorized as a separated use and cannot be located within a quarter mile or 1,320 feet of a charter, private, or public school which provides elementary or secondary education. The proposed smoke shop is approximately 1,340 feet from Nevitt Elementary School, which is located at 6640 South 44th Place in the city of Phoenix. Prior to the original hearing, staff received a total of 4 emails and 2 phone calls in opposition of the request. At the hearing, 4 members of the neighborhood provided testimony in opposition to the use permit request. The overall consensus of the opposition cited concern for downgrading of property values, compatibility, with nearby uses, and secondary effects caused by potential disruptive behavior. The appellant, Lori Scott, submitted an appeal petition to the Community Development Department on June 26th. Ms. Scott feels that the use permit application meets the use permit approval criteria, contrary to the hearing officer's decision. Staff has received petitions in opposition to the appeal from the Tempe South Mountain Neighborhood Association. A total of 56 signatures were collected from the neighborhood. Copies of the petitions were shared with you at study session and provided by email to the appellant. A decision by the commission to approve the appeal will have the effect of overturning the hearing officer's decision, thus approving the use permit. A denial will uphold the hearing officer's decision, and the use permit will remain denied. And I'll be available should you have any questions.
Okay. Is the appellant here? If you'd like to come and address the commission, please give your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Lori Scott. I live at 3724 West Pleasant Lane in Phoenix. First off, I want to say that I do believe my business has met all of the criteria outlined to do business in the city of Tempe. I think the biggest concern displayed by the neighborhood at the last session was the possibility of disruptive behavior. I do not allow loitering outside of my business. It's private property, and the clerks know. The clerks who work there are instructed to call the police if anyone does not comply with the request to leave the premises. The neighbors were concerned over people driving through the neighborhood to avoid the intersection of 48th Street and Baseline. This happens apparently a lot, but it has nothing to do with my business. My business is not even open, so it has nothing to do with my business that people are driving through the neighborhood. They expressed concerns about pedestrian traffic. This business is located on 48th Street. The only pedestrian traffic we're going to have is people from the neighborhood. As they're tobacco retailers a half mile north and south of our location, I don't anticipate anybody walking a half mile in the Arizona sun to frequent my business. There is not and will never be anything illegal in our shop. Everything that we sell is legal. We cater to the cigar smokers and the golf courses in the area, the Raven Golf Course, Legacy, and the Arizona Grand. And finally, to quote Governor Doug Ducey, the opportunity to earn a living and pursue the American dream is a right promised to every citizen. With the signing of Senate Bill 1437 last year, Governor Ducey guaranteed Arizonans the right to earn a living. I'm assuming that right extends to the city of Tempe. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any questions of the Commissioner DiDomenico?
Madam Chair, it was discussed in our study session. There was some indication that possibly the business was open for a period of time earlier this year and then was cited for lack of use permit. So can you kind of run through that chronology of what's gone on and
Sure.
how long you were open and now how long you've been closed?
We were open for 12 days before we were cited. Once we were cited, we closed, not knowing that I did not know we had to get a use permit. I've never had to do that before. The landlord that we rented from never indicated. I got the tax licenses. I got everything else that I needed to open a business. I was not aware that I had to have a use permit in the city of Tempe.
And that's something that you've had to deal with, and you've got 4 other locations or 5?
Yes, in the city of Phoenix.
And City of Phoenix didn't require a use permit?
No.
And what dates, from when to when were those 12 days?
In
Approximately.
late April. You're welcome.
Other questions? I'm curious, it indicated in the information that you were planning on being only open 6 days a week, but you hadn't decided what days you were going to be open yet. Have you made that decision, or is that something you're going to wait to see how your business is, or what will be the
Depending on
deciding factor?
I'm sorry, Madam Chairman. Depending on the traffic, depending on what kind of business we get, we usually close all of our stores on Sunday. So.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll go ahead and have the public hearing, and then you can come back after the public hearing has closed to address any issues that have been raised. Thank you. The first person we have is Chris Hoover. And again, as a reminder, just keep your eye on the timer.
In preparing for this, I have been Googling different smoke shops that are in business here in Tempe, and they all open on strip malls that are on major streets. This is one of 3 entrances to our neighborhood. It is a strip mall that probably should have never been created. And so we are asking you to be aware of this. I don't know if anyone has gone by this place. We were really encouraged that the hearing officer that we met with had actually gone, taken pictures, and seen where this is located. It is an entrance to our neighborhood. It is 200 feet from our park. It is 80 feet from where kids catch a bus and are from the school system, high school, and also the other school systems, the elementary and middle school. So we are concerned about children being around this environment and this business. They sell more than just cigar products. You all know what they're selling. They're basically a head shop. And so they will sell those products as well. So they will have those customers as well. Let's see, what else did I want to say? I work in the school system for the Tempe elementary schools. I work at Nevitt Elementary. If this shop was just a little bit further along towards 48th Street, it would not be allowed. It's 20 feet within legal. And I'm asking you, as someone who works in the school system, to please not allow this shop to open. As someone who's lived in this neighborhood and owns a home, we also have a right to pursue the American dream. For us, it's home ownership. This is one of the biggest investments people can make is in their home. We also want to have a safe place to live. If they're choosing what days they're open, can they choose more days than just the 6 days? And what will their hours be? Will this affect kids waiting for the bus system to come pick them up? So these are all concerns that we have. I walked one street and got 17 signatures on Monday night. If I was able in July to walk the other streets, if you just have that, you can understand that this neighborhood is protesting this. We would get a lot more signatures if we had more time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Moonshadow.
Evening. I live 600 feet from the smoke shop in Phoenix and was sent a card about it. I just don't feel that since excuse me, I had a petition in my little neighborhood. I got 8 signatures, and I feel that with a smoke shop at 48th and Baseline and 48th and Southern, that the area has plenty of smoke shops. The smoke shop's only 20 feet further than it needs to be from a school, and they've had 1 burglary, as far as I understand, in June. And I just don't feel that it adds to the value of the neighborhood. That space in that little shopping center's got some hair businesses, and it's more oriented to the neighborhood of people, and it just seems that there could be a better use for that space, that a smoke shop's not going to enhance the value of our property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the cards I have. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this case?
My name is Barb Brooks. I live in this neighborhood. I've been there for 28 years. I am a smoker, but I do not frequent smoke shops because of the clientele that generally hangs out there, which is what we're trying to fight in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is a very fragile neighborhood. We're right close to all the businesses, commercial, everything there on that corner. The Fry's Electronics, the Fry's Grocery Store, the pawn shops across 48th. There's going to be a Burger King going in, Fry's Fuel. We're just surrounded by businesses already. We have problems in our neighborhood with crime that we've been working with the city of Tempe. We have problems with traffic, speeders, cut through and all kinds of stuff. We're working with the city of Tempe traffic on those. We spent a lot of time working with the Tempe police and calling in complaints regarding Southern and 48th Street, the northeast corner, McDonald's, a closed gas station, car wash, smoke shop, laundromat, where there were a lot of loitering, a lot of homeless people camped out there. There were a lot of people begging, and suspected that some of them may have been drugs, according to some people that were going through the McDonald's drive-thru. It took several months to get that cleaned up. And our fear is that's just going to come our way. There's a canal right close to this, right next to this place, good place for them to hang out. Filter into our neighborhood, filter into our park, which is scheduled for later this fall to be remodeled. We already have a lot of activities at that park. We kind of don't want to invite less desirables. I don't know how else to say the word. If people frequent a establishment that has a smoke shop in it, then they understand what that's all about, the panhandlers and that kind of stuff. There was, as Moonshadow brought up, a burglary already there, and it's not even been open yet. So it's a fear to people that back up to that alley where there's already been burglaries, that it's the loiterers, you come out and tell them they can't loiter in front of your place. There's no guarantee where the loiterers are going to go. Are they going to hang out at the martial arts, or are they going to go around the corner to our park or into our neighborhood? So that's a big concern for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this case? If anyone else is in the audience wishing to speak, please turn in a card.
My name is Marion Brownell, and I live in the neighborhood, and I've been there for 30 years, and I've seen the different changes and things. The smoke shop is not a good thing. It's like Barb said, we're surrounded by commercials, property, and we're trying to fight back. And I spoke with the people with the Tempe police and asked about the crime statistics between the martial arts studio where children are there and the wig shop, the two wig shops that are there, what the crime rate has been. And other than one snatch and grab at the wig store, that has been the only problem. The smoke shop was not even open, and already there was a burglary there. So what's to say once they're open and fully stocked, that's going to happen again. And I know you cannot prevent crimes. There's crime everywhere. But we're trying to fight to save our neighborhood and build it back to the way it used to be. And we would like, if you're going to put something in there, how about a police substation? That would be nice. That would cut down the crime. But that would be our choice, but that may not happen. But we want you to really think about it. Would you want a smoke shop in your neighborhood? Think about that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public wishing to speak? If not, we will close the public hearing, and the appellant may, if you have anything to add, if you want to address any of the issues raised.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We did not have a burglary. We had an attempted break-in. They didn't get into the store. Our security is such that they could not get into the store. They set the alarm off. We responded. There was no break-in. It was an attempt, and we acknowledge that. They attempted to break in because we were fully stocked. Since we've been closed, we've had to return $60,000 worth of cigars to our wholesaler because we can't let them sit there and just go bad. So, but no, there has been no break-ins in our store. So.
Any questions or comments from Council Commission at this time? Commissioner DiDomenico.
During I know it was an abbreviated period of time, but during the 12 days that you were open and operating, were there any calls to the police department related to your operation?
Madam Chairman, Mr. DeMicchio, no.
Any noise or loitering complaints from the neighborhood? Staff, do you know anything different than the testimony that the applicants just stated? Were there any calls, noise complaints, anything we're aware of at the staff level?
At the time the original staff report was drafted, I contacted our crime prevention unit, and he indicated that the only call for service was that burglary attempt back in June. For a year, dating back a year from
Thank you.
from May.
And we've heard some of the neighbors have in their testimony have stated that there's already two, kind of a half mile either direction from you on 48th Street, two other competitors.
Yes.
Why would you pick this location? What is it about it that you feel there's room for a third?
It was my husband's decision.
But you feel that this will be a good location? It's underserved somehow?
Because of the golf courses in the area, yes. Like I said, we do have, we carry top-rated cigars, golfers smoke cigars, and that's what we anticipate the business coming from.
Who's the landlord for this shopping center? Do you know who your landlord is?
It's a company in California.
Before you moved into this space, was it occupied? Has it been vacant for a while?
It was vacant for a while. It was previously occupied by a church or bookstore, Christian bookstore or something,
How big is your store?
1,200 square feet.
1,200 feet? Small church.
Yeah. Or,
Thank you.
Commissioner Amorosi.
Yes, you mentioned your security system. Does your security system have cameras that you can videotape people?
yes, sir.
All right, that's great, thanks.
Over 16 cameras.
Wow, okay.
Commissioner Johnson.
I have a question about one of the photographs that was included in the packet, and the descriptions of the service that you provide and the products that you sell. It didn't click with me. On the front window, it says "Enjoy the show." Or there's some type of
Is
there any showing or anything like that? What's going on?
Sorry, that is a saying that my husband has said in all of his businesses. Somebody comes in and they come in to look, and he says, "Enjoy the show." So he had that on all of his T-shirts, and this location, he put it on the window.
Okay, thank you.
There's no
Curious.
videos.
No, okay.
Commissioner Thornton.
I was just wanting to go back to that security thing. I'm looking at the picture too, and I don't see any bars on the windows, but what prevented the burglary?
The bars on the door.
Okay, they're on the door. Okay, thank
And
you.
the front window is blocked by two showcases. If they even broke the glass, there's no way to get in because these things are extremely heavy, so.
Mr. Lyon.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. I have a couple of questions which I'll preface by saying are, in my mind, irrelevant to the case, but I'm curious, so if you'll indulge me. I was curious also about how occupied this store was. I saw a Christian bookstore, I believe, not a church, but a bookstore. Do you have any sense for how long that space was unoccupied?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Like I said, it was my husband's idea that he picked that location and surprised me with it. So.
Okay. And then my other question, which again I believe is irrelevant, but I'm curious. Would you be willing to tell us or describe for us what's business like during those 12 days? How was the business doing?
We did $760 those 12 days.
Okay. Thanks for indulging me.
No problem.
Other questions? Commissioner Brown.
One of the, at least one of the speakers who opposed your shop referred to a head shop, or do you sell drug paraphernalia, bongs and rolling papers and that sort of thing?
We sell rolling papers for tobacco. We sell pipes. It is not paraphernalia because it's not used.
Thank you.
I follow up on that. What do you mean it's not used? People buy it as
It's not
paperweights?
I got a description of paraphernalia from a police officer, and how is it legal to sell a pipe, but it's not legal to possess a pipe? Usually people who possess a pipe, it's been used, it has residue on it. We sell pipes, bongs, rolling papers for tobacco use only.
Well, why is it necessary for it to be, I mean, we live in a state, we live in a city that has medical marijuana
Correct.
distribution points. We have lots of residents who smoke or ingest marijuana legally.
Correct.
I imagine some of them probably use these products that could be found in your store in a perfectly legal manner, at least as far as the state's concerned.
Which is why I stated there is nothing illegal in our store.
Okay,
whatsoever.
I saw you were trying to walk a fine line on
Extremely
that
fine
this is
line.
just, it's never been used, and so once it's out of our sight, we don't care what happens. From what I understand, it shouldn't matter because there are legal uses for it,
Yes.
smoking more than tobacco, so, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of our clerks are trained. They do not sell to minors. We do sell sodas, and this particular store, we don't have any candy or chips or anything, but we do have sodas and water. Minors are not allowed in the store without an adult. If they do come in to buy a soda, yes, we will sell them a soda, but they can't walk around the store. I mean, that's just something we don't allow. So.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, then we'll close this part of the hearing, and I'll open it up to commissioner discussion. Commissioner Amorosi.
Yes, I'd like to address, I know one of the residents talked about, would we like a smoke shop in our neighborhood? I live right off of Apache Boulevard, and we probably have an oversaturation of smoke shops and hookah lounges, and it probably in the entire state. And I've lived there since 1985, and the smoke shops really haven't been the detrimental crime sites that you think might happen over there. We have a lot more problems when alcohol is sold rather than cigarettes and cigars.
Other comments? Anyone? Vice Chair Lyon.
When I asked my questions, I was trying to be careful to say that I found the answers to be irrelevant to the case because, to my mind, there are only 5 criteria that are important for our judgment here. And those are the significant increase in vehicular traffic, nuisance from odor, dust, and gas, deterioration of the neighborhood, compatibility with existing uses, and disruptive behavior. I am not in agreement with the hearing officer in that I don't think any of these are an issue. I don't think there's any substantial increase in traffic. I don't think there's an increase in nuisance or deterioration in the neighborhood. I think it is compatible, as demonstrated by the other uses in the area, and I don't see a significant contribution of disruptive behavior. Having said that, I will be interested in approving the appeal.
Any other comments? Commissioner Brown.
I kind of familiar with 2 smoke shops. One I walk by occasionally, and there are people outside smoking cigars. This is in a pedestrian area, and it is offensive. So I think that ironically, the word smoke is in that, of course, it's probably aimed at industrial smoke, but it is a certain offense. I run a couple times a week, and when I go by someone smoking, I do find it to be offensive. I've played golf a few times, and most golfers do not smoke cigars, but a few do. And there is a smell. So I think, strictly speaking, there is a slight negativity there in literally the air. But item 3, the deterioration of the neighborhood, I think is a legitimate case. the signage and the nature of the smoke shop I would not want in my neighborhood. So I think that that is a reason not to conceivably buy a home in that area. So there is a potentially a market influence upon the market, the real estate market. So I think that is a significant and real situation. So I'm inclined to vote against this
Right.
passage.
Other comments? Go ahead, Cheryl.
At the risk of rebutting, I guess that's something that I would like to do. We hear this discussion of deterioration of neighborhoods, and I think there's very frequently this sense of, well, I'd prefer to have a Whole Foods, or I'd prefer to have Taj Mahal, or something else wonderful. But in my estimation, retail property commands whatever rents it can. There are certain low-rent tenants that are attracted to certain low-rent locations. And if the neighborhood was good enough to sustain a Whole Foods or a Taj Mahal, that's what we'd get. But what we get instead is low-rent users. So I think, in my mind, where you have a vacant site, which is a lower-rent property, we're not talking about a degradation of the property by having a user that fits that rent profile come in. Actually looking at activating the site and getting some revenue there. And the only way for that neighborhood to improve is for rents to go up, which means active commerce. So sitting vacant's the worst thing you can do. And sitting around, letting the site sit while we wait for the ideal use, I think is typically the worst choice. The best choice is to get the site activated with some dollars coming in to help rents gradually go up.
Commissioner Brown.
Just for a point of discussion, because it's always interesting to discuss the opinions. So sinking to a lower denominator, is that the way to build up a neighborhood? Or are we condemning in this neighborhood to be eternally a low-rent smoke shop sort of neighborhood? I wonder.
Commissioner Domenico, you had a comment.
A couple of things. One is I'm very familiar with the center and have probably been on the property 20 or 30 times. Not all because of this case, but I'm in commercial real estate and operate commercial property for other people. In my experience, the worst thing in any neighborhood and for property maintenance is vacancy. What attracts loitering and bad behavior and dumping and graffiti are properties that don't have active tenants in them. The more eyes you have and for the more hours of the day, the better it is to keep the bad stuff away or to at least report it to the police. Vacant lots, vacant land, absolutely horrible, for a neighborhood also. Bad things happen there. In this case, if there's been past problems with maintenance of this mid-block shopping center, I'd imagine it's because you have an owner who only puts so much into a property based on the revenue he's taking out of it. You do have this property's always had the wig shops and whose windows are plastered with signage. You've always had a transitory tenant population there because it just doesn't have the anchor and it doesn't command the rent that a grocery-anchored center, say at Southern and 48th Street would. I've walked a couple of other smoke shops. I have one in my neighborhood. And I've gone 3 times in the last 2 weeks into Tobacco World. And Tobacco World has the same product mix as I expect this one does. It has the glassware, all the paraphernalia. It has a cigar room. It has candy bars and fruit juices and all kinds of other stuff. It doesn't have a seating area out on the sidewalk for people to stick around and hang out and smoke. But a lot of tobacco shops, there's one on 5th Avenue in downtown Scottsdale that does. They have tables and chairs inside and out, and people smoke inside and they smoke outside. This doesn't sound like it's intended to have any kind of that activity and would not be allowed to have that kind of activity under current city ordinance. You just can't smoke by the front door, and if that's happening, it should be reported, and the city would react accordingly. Just like inappropriate signage on the streets or in front of it or in their windows, that's code compliance issue, not really germane to this case. I read the hearing officer's substance behind his decision and didn't find any real substance to it. And although as a city we may want to have different things happen, as a commission I think we're supposed to vote based on 5 criteria that the law hands us. And those 5 criteria to me don't support, and you made the one that I think is the closest to being able to build a case for is whether it degrades the neighborhood by adding a smoke shop, who we've determined sells legal merchandise. Nothing in there, no one said that anything illegal is going on with what's being sold or what's happening in or around the store. Nothing happened during the 12 days that they were open. The one thing that people would want to hang their hat on is adding a 3rd one to the neighborhood. Is that going to take down our property values or the values of real estate in the neighborhood? 2 versus 3, I don't see it making. I don't think it's moving the meter.
Are we allowed to respond?
No.
And I've seen the other neighborhoods where I've gone and walked the tobacco worlds. Even on Mill Ave, you don't have to walk very far, a couple of 100 yards away from here. We have a tobacco shop with a much more controversial name and marketing angle to it, right next to Rula Bula. It just hasn't torn those neighborhoods down.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to say that I agree largely with Vice Chair Lyons' reading of the criteria for the approval of the use permit. I too happen to live within 50 yards of a smoke shop, and I don't see a lot of issues associated with that smoke shop there. I would, however, like to just discuss with the staff, with the commission, adding in the, if we do go with a positive, so this would be approving the repeal, thank you, to add in the condition that was outlined in the earlier hearing officer minutes of returning within 6 months, as written in the minutes.
I'd like to just say a couple of things, and whether we like tobacco smoke or not, smoking is not illegal in the city of Tempe. There are designated areas where it's not allowed, and if in fact smoking is occurring there, then that's something you have to be aware of and take care of. We also do not regulate where businesses go. We do not regulate any other activity. We don't say that having a convenience market on every corner is too many convenience markets, or having a bar every 10 feet, Mill Avenue, is an issue. So I think that those are not part of the decisions tonight. Again, we have to look at the 5 criteria, and I agree. I don't see that there's any major violation of any of the requirements. Any other comments? Seeing none,
We have a second, right?
pardon me?
Was there a second to your motion?
We don't have a motion.
We don't have a motion, so
Oh, when you said I'd like to see that happen.
I
I
So-
was expressing my
I follow.
so I will ask for the motion now. Vice Chair Lyon.
Madam Chair, I move for approval of PL 170157, which will have the effect of overturning the hearing officer's decision, with the added stipulation. How should this be worded, Commissioner Johnson? Or, yeah.
Madam Chair and Vice Chair, attachment 20 has the language for it, page attachment number 20 in your staff report. Somewhere midway down if you would like to read that on the record. It's in quotes, kind of midway into the page.
Go ahead, Johnson. Commissioner Johnson, if you have it.
A condition of approval to return to the hearing officer for review of compliance with the conditions of approval within 6 months. The timing for the 6-month review period to commence when the building is in full operation, when the business is in full operation, sorry. Advise community development staff when in full business operation. If the full business activity is not initiated within 1 year, the use permit will lapse.
Vice Chair Lyon has made the motion to approve the appeal, in effect reversing the hearing officer's decision with the language that has been read by Commissioner Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Vice Chair Lyon, seconded by Commissioner Amorosi. All those in favor, please. And those opposed? And that's a 6-1 vote with Commissioner Brown in the dissent. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is future agenda items from staff.
Madam Chair and members of Commission, for August 8th meeting of Development Review Commission, we have a development plan review for Daytona Racing Experience located on 8525 South Emerald Drive. We have a use permit and development plan review for Precision Fleet Services located on 366 South Smith Road. 360, actually there's a revised agenda, I correct myself, it's 360 South Smith Road. And we also have a request for a use permit standard, as well as a development plan review for Second and Hardy Townhomes located on 225 South Hardy Drive.
Any other business for the commission? If not, we're adjourned.